start soon. Okay, welcome. Welcome. Okay, you didn't get the there we go. This meeting is about impact. We're gonna hopefully either bring you up to date with some updates that have happened recently, especially in Nevada. We're gonna bring you from the start, from the beginning of this process, and kind of just give an overview of the whole thing as it relates to our individuals, licensees that are currently state licensed. So happy to not talk about the regulatory part of this, although we have several people on the call that are very familiar with it. I'll introduce them in a second. But we're just going to be talking from a licensee standpoint, because this is what the meeting's about. Our members are all, at some point, they're certified, all of them, and most of them are licensed. And if you're not licensed, that's cool too, because this is for the future of the profession. Impact is really seeing what we've all probably been wondering for the past 5 at least years, and if not longer. I know there's folks on here that have been more than a decade practicing, and we've always wondered how can we make this a national, is there a national license? Well, no. Still not, even with impact, but we're going to talk about how we're moving towards that. My email address is on this this slide, so if you guys have any questions afterwards, if you have any questions that we could forward to the appropriate people, great. We will definitely do that, but you can send them to me first. The meeting's recording, just as a reminder, and unless you're speaking, would you mind muting your microphone? Background noise can be picked up, and it's really hard to hear otherwise for some folks. So thank you, unless you have a question. And I wanted to say, if you have a question for clarification, please raise your hand. And Becky, I think you can unmute at that point too. If Becky can unmute, and she will automatically that way. I want it to be clear what I'm saying. So if you have a question about what I'm saying, other kinds of questions like, well, what about a XYZ situation, or we'll talk about that later in the Q&A. And I would love to entertain those kinds of questions, because that's what this whole meeting is about, is how does it affect NVMTs as a whole? Today we have joining us, and Becky is like my right-hand volunteer right now, because we're wading through this together, and Becky is a volunteer of the chapter, and she's acting as a co-host for this meeting. Becky's also a state inspector for the board. So just to let you guys know that she is, you're probably going to be hearing from her or seeing her somewhere, and you're in the field at some point. We also have Bianca Smith, who's a board member, joining us, and an AMTA member. So thank you, Bianca, for coming. And as noted on this slide, Sandy Anderson is coming to the meeting, invited as a special guest. She's the executive director of the Nevada State Board of Massage Therapy. So thank you, all three of you, for being here. Sandy, you are not in any way have any duty to be here. So we really, really, really appreciate your time, your input, because there are some things that, you know, if I say it wrong, I think the hairs on the back of your neck will probably be like, raise my hand, raise my hand. Please do. Clarification and being clear about what this is very important to me, I think to the chapter, and of course to everybody here in the meeting learning about impact, sometimes for the first time. All right, so without further ado, the first half of the meeting should take about 30 minutes, maybe. And the second half will be the Q&A session, where we can openly chat about what you just heard. So if you have any questions during the presentation, like maybe specific questions or your situation kind of questions, just open the chat. It's in the bottom right. It's the little text bubble. Does everybody see it? If you don't see it, just roll over the icons and you'll see chat with everyone. Open that up, type it in there, and that way we can be sure to ask it, address it later during the Q&A, and it'll be time date stamped, so we'll answer them in order that we get them. So hopefully, if the question has been answered during the presentation, we'll note that in the Q&A. All right. As I said, we're going to be talking about this from a practitioner point of view, a potential licensee point of view. So any regulatory questions, probably better for watching a video on it on the CSG website, because they do talk about the regulatory effects. Sandy's been through both the state and the regulatory components of this, and we're not going to focus on that today. All right, let's see if if I can change the slide. Oh, here we go. So today we're going to be talking about IMpact, which is the Interstate Massage Compact, as I love the acronym. We're going to go over some definitions to kind of get everybody on the same page of what we mean when we say certain phrases or certain words. We're going to talk about the origin to a very shallow degree, but as we discussed before, we've all been asking for it since the dawn of the profession. So that's kind of like the implicit origin. We're going to talk about the nature of the players, and the nature of the document itself, and what the intent is for the document as it's being designed and developed and administrated at this point. And then we're going to actually dive into the document and describe the sections. If you guys have already checked out the document and you're like, this is a lot of legislative wording and we just want to hear it plain as day, we're going to try and do that for you. We're going to focus mostly on section 4, which is of most interest to us, I think, but we'll be briefly glazing over the other sections. And then what are the implications of impact, long-term, short-term, things like that. All right, let's go over some acronyms. Alphabet soup, anybody? So IMpact, as I said, is the Interstate Massage Compact. The CSG is the Council of State Governments. They are the overarching body of the NCIC. So the National Center for Interstate Compacts is underneath them. It's a program that they operate, and this is where the IMpact is being developed originally. It is a federal, not a federal, it's a national organization that works with local state governments, state governments, and federal offices to build agreements between different jurisdictions. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to find some common ground in a compact that at least 7 states will agree to are good practices and safe, and we'll talk about that later, about practicing massage therapy across state lines, which is very cool. This is their job. The Department of Defense is very interested in assisting occupational license development across state lines, mostly for their military families. Is anybody here? And by raise of hand, just you can pop up or just use your little icon down there. Is anybody a spouse or a military member? No one here. Okay. So the Department of Defense is spearheading the funding for this, as we'll talk about later, because they're interested in making state lines not an issue for the military members, and they're mostly their spouses who are massage therapists in one area jurisdiction, and they move to another one, and it's very difficult to keep a profession. Nurses, same thing, it's the same consideration, etc. The FSMTB is the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards. That's the one that writes and publishes and manages giving the NBLEX exam, and they're basically a consortium of all member state regulatory bodies. I don't want to say boards because there are some states that don't have massage therapy specific boards. There are medical boards that oversee massage therapy, so that medical board could be a member of and you'll see that on their website as well, that they have different types of boards. And there's a nursing board that's a member, I think it's Virginia, because that's who regulates their massage therapy licenses there. And the NSBMT, our favorite, that's the Nevada State Board of Massage Therapy, recently changed their name like 4 or 5 years ago to therapy instead of therapists, because now we have multi-tier licenses for structural integration and reflexology. This impact is just for the massage therapy portion of Nevada. Okay, and we'll talk more about what that means later. Some more definitions. The Compact Commission. So the Compact Commission will be a body of member states. What's the word I'm looking for? Participants. So let's say Nevada State Board of Massage Therapy becomes a member state. Well, somebody from the Nevada State Board, and I'm not sure what the qualifications are for being a member, like a person that sits on the
executive director.
Okay, so the executive directors of these regulatory bodies are eligible to be a commission member, and I think there's a certain number. I'm not sure what that is, but that will be the body of people that will serve as the rule makers and the enforcers and the database managers and things like that. The commission will be ultimately the operating heart of impact. When we say multi-state license, we do not mean a national license. I just want to make the distinction here. A multi-state license in any compact, and we're specifically talking about massage therapy, will be a license issued that allows a holder to practice in a member state jurisdiction. So let's say there's a minimum 7 to start the compact. Let's just say Nevada is one of them. Well, a multi-state license holder in Nevada would be able to practice in the other 6 states, not all states, not all jurisdictions. So this is restricted simply to the member state jurisdictions. A member state is a state that has a regulatory body that has become a member of impact. The home state, when we're referring to licensees, is where the licensee lives. And I watched the video, you'll see it in the CSG's video too. They've made this distinction because the question came up, what if I live in California and my license is in Arizona? Unfortunately, you're not eligible to be a impact licensee because your residential address, where you spend 6 months or more a year, is in California. If Arizona is a member state, you can't apply, you can't qualify, unfortunately, because your residence is in California. So there are some little nuances here and there. That might be a question that somebody had already that's answered. We can talk more about that later, but that's your home state, the one you live in. The remote state is where you would be practicing massage in a member state, in a member state jurisdiction. So if Arizona and Nevada were members of the compact, the remote state for an NVMT would be Arizona. Your home state is where you live, not necessarily where you hold your license, your original license. All right. This is just a list. You can find it on the CSG's website of stakeholder organizations in impact. These are the ones that have dedicated resources and/or people to developing the document you see today. Again, available through the CSG website. The most current document, I would refer that to anybody, because what I download today or view today can change in the future. So that's the most current version, and it has over the past year and a half or so. There was a public comment period last year, I think somewhere between April or May and August, that they took the suggestions in the comments and they changed it into what it is today. So I always refer to the CSG website for the most recent version of impact.
David, this is clarification. Yes. At this point, we cannot modify the document anymore.
That's what my next point was. Is now it's being submitted to state legislative bodies because the ones in session are hearing them, and this is unless it's what did it say on the first page 1 of the current document? If it's nominally no, substantively changed. They're not recommending any substantive changes when it enters the legislative BDR process, because it would make the compact that they're presenting not valid anymore. So again, this is why CSG is involved, because when there is a substantive change, like a comma, like I'm a Oxford comma guy, that's not substantive. So if the legislator needs an Oxford comma, I think that's an acceptable change. Does that sound right, Sandy?
Perhaps. What we're being told by legal is you can't change the document. If you do, you are not a member state.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for the clarification. So I underlined the FSMTB because, as probably see in a later slide, the FSMTB is the home of the legislative bodies that are taking this to their legislators right now, or in the future. So I think it's a de facto organization for hosting a database or a data system, as they describe, and hosting, the commission meetings, things like this, because it's one of the organizations that is a stakeholder in this, and it will come to an agreement that somebody has to manage this. It will not be the CSG or the NCIC departments. After a point, they modify. If there's negotiations or amendments to the compact, that's when they come back in and will become active again. That's their job. But when the compact is said and done and accepted in their 7 or more member states, there will be a place that the commission needs to be housed, and the database and all that stuff. So that's why I underlined the FSMTB. I think, and I think it's understood that they're going to be the de facto organization. The Nevada State.
It will be the Matilda database that the Federation already has that will house all the information on the licensees. So you are correct.
Thank you. I boldfaced the NSVMT because they are a founding stakeholder in all this. As you can see, there are other boards and regulatory bodies. Like I said, the Virginia Board of Nursing had a part in this because they regulate massage therapists. But I'm pretty proud of that fact. Thank you, Sandy. How does IMpact work? For us, this is for us now. We're the purple people in this. We want to practice in a compact member state. So let's use Nevada and Arizona as examples. So I want to practice in Arizona. I live in Nevada. I have well over 625 hours. I have a clear background check here, and I submitted to their background check. I apply. That's the second step. I apply. We're going to talk about the details of the qualifications later, but let's say they accept my application, they review it, they do their FBI background check. That's a separate one from our state license, our state professional license. This is now in the realm of a multi-state license. So when everything comes back clear and approved, I pay the fee. I get my little card in the mail, and now I can go to Arizona and practice as a massage therapist would in Arizona. If I need a business license to open a shop in Phoenix and I live in Nevada, I still have to get a local business license. But I do not need an Arizona Board of Massage Therapy license because we're both member states, and Arizona has allowed Nevada NVMTs to come in under this compact without getting a full Arizona license. So I don't need to have 2 licenses. That's pretty cool. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. First, the origin. This is a paraphrased mission. You can find their actual mission and what they do on their website, but they serve as an advisory, as advisors. They bring people together, or jurisdictions together to a table. They talk about what has happened in the past, what is legally sound. They form based on what both or more parties want in a compact, and it's an advisory position. They will also provide legal advice to consider both jurisdictions, what their goals are, what their laws in effect already are, not even in the particular specialty in which they're developing the compact. They have a really good overview of how to develop something. The CSG was, I don't think, around in 1960. We'll get to that later, but you guys have a driver's license. You can drive to any state. That's also a compact that was developed in 1960. The nature of impact is the DoD involvement is that basically they're funding occupational licensure efforts, compacting efforts. Their interest is to help their military members in this. So they're actually, and Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, they are completely funding this particular compact.
They funded the first part. The Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards reached out to DOD and applied for a grant. DOD granted us the grant, and they paid for the Council of State Governments to do all of the heavy lifting to get us to this point.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think it's important to understand that it does cost money to do all this, and that CSGs can't do it for free. They just no organization can do anything for free. So this is the nature of that aspect of developing a compact. And as I mentioned earlier, and Sandy clarified, the FSMTB has been a part of the nature of this document. All right, let's go to the document itself. If anybody has it in front of them, we're going to go by article. And I'm going to do a quick sentence about the parts that we're not really going to get into today. The purpose, we kind of went over that already. We're going to go over later in the benefits, because they really list a lot of the benefits in the purpose of the actual document of why are we doing this? What is the outcome? So we're going to talk about those benefits later. There are some really detailed definitions of the terms used in the document. Again, it's a legal document, so as you'll see with our NRSs and our NACs, there are definitions in the beginning of any legal document to help clarify what the document is referring to when they say certain words or certain phrases. Article 3 is the member state requirements. We don't have to worry about that. That's totally up to the regulatory body for massage therapy in the state. I will note here, though, that one of the member state requirements, which is significant to us, is that there is a professional license issued by the regulatory body for massage therapy, not a professional certification. So California is not going to, right now, as it stands, California is not going to be a member. If they pass licensure, which has been in recent sessions prior to whatever their current one is, either this year or next year, they have introduced legislation for license. Didn't go very far. There's a lot of turbulence in California, but it's been written, and it needs to be updated and or submitted as a BDR for their legislature for licensure to ever think about happening there. Right now, the CAMTC, if you're familiar with California, is the approving body for what local jurisdictions like cities and counties are using as credentialing for California, across California. So CAMTC reaches out to, let's say, the County of Los Angeles and says, hey, we have a way to verify the credentials for the massage therapists, the businesses, the employees that you issue or hire. Please use us, and they do. CAMTC has a really good model. They've been very successful over the past, I would say, 12 to 15 years. I don't know the exact date of their inception, but they've been around the block, so they have a good basis for, I think, what's been written into a licensure legislative effort. So California, there are a couple other states. I think I want to say Montana doesn't have state licensure right now. Vermont is another one that doesn't currently have state licensure unless they did it in the past couple of years. There are a couple other states that will not be eligible. Outerlying territories of the U.S. are eligible. So it's 50 states plus DC plus U.S. territories are eligible, as long as they have a license, okay? A professional license in that state. All right, let's go to the really interesting part, Article 4. Again, this is a breakdown, a simplification of the actual language, but basically, I need to have an unencumbered state license, professional license. And unencumbered, I thought that was a pretty interesting word to use because it covers a lot. Unencumbered means, first and foremost, that it's active, that it's not suspended or inactive or whatever the verbiage is used in that particular state to indicate that it's not a fully accessible license, that a practitioner can't just go out and use it as their scope defines. So unencumbered also means that there are some some disciplinary considerations. If you've had discipline at the state regulatory body level in the past 2 years, that you're clear of that time frame. Also, any misdemeanors less than, I want to say 2 years, that are not, sorry, that are massage related, and then federal, what is the federal one? What's a federal offense? What is that called? Sandy.
Actually, I think what you're looking for is felony type offenses
Thank
as
you.
opposed to federal. But yes,
Yeah, that's 5 years. Okay.
right.
And plus any other offenses that the commission may develop in the rules that are yet to be written.
Correct.
So, and that leaves kind of an open end of what unencumbered means. But you know, if you keep your nose clean and you pay your fees every year and you've never had any complaints against you or any investigations that developed into a disciplinary action, and you know, if you're cool that way, no problem. But you really need to start asking questions. And I don't know if the commission, and I don't know if anybody knows if the commission will ever do portfolio reviews for that kind of thing. But when you submit your application, like with our state board, asking the question is a really good idea before you submit your application. What does unencumbered mean? I have this, or this that possibly might interfere. Speeding tickets, I don't think will interfere. But if it's drug related, it may, even if it's a misdemeanor. Some states don't have marijuana legalized yet for medical and or recreational use. So there will be member states applicants that may have some questions that we don't. That's why NVMT, we're talking about Nevada here. You will also have to have passed a national licensing exam, which is by listed in the document itself. I'm not going to go over the actual exams. AMBLEX is the first one. And any other national licensing exams that the commission may write a rule for when they get together for the first time. So I did not see what the exam that Nevada and most recently, I should say about 4 or 5 years ago, accepted as an exam, the ITEC exam. I did not see that on the list of exams that the compact includes.
You will not see that.
Okay. So maybe the word international has something to do with it. I don't know. Because this is a U.S. compact. So maybe I'm conjecturing there, by the way. So the AMBLEX is for sure on there. I don't know about any other by name specifically. That's the only licensing exam that I know of right off the top of my head is the AMBLEX. You also the point of contention for a lot of individuals, like practitioners that were there during some of the video presentations would ask this question, like, what is my basic education requirement? And it was it was clarified by Matt Schaefer, the one of the I don't know his title exactly, but he was answering the questions. Your basic education hours don't matter when you're applying for this license. The development committee wrote it open enough where continuing education can be considered in the total number of clock hours that I have on this particular slide. And I put clock hours because it's all general. Which organizations that you may have to show have issued these clock hours may be a rule that they write in the future, because education provider, now I'm using that phrase in relation to the NCB TMB, because their approved providers are known as providers. That's a nationally accepted for many decades now form of continuing education. But if you have somebody teaching you Reiki in their house and they're not, if you say I got a massage therapy education because the NCB approves Reiki, they have to be a provider for it to be recognized. Or they may say, hey, send in that person's credentials. I highly doubt that the commission would use an unrecognized continuing education credentialing system. All I know is the NCB right now. I know we can talk about it later in the Q&A if you have questions about your CEs and will they apply. But anything NCB TMB approved in the past is typically understood as profession accepted. Then let's go down to passive background check. This is separate from the regulatory bodies background check that they may require on their applications on the state level. So this is a full background check. This is not a quickie. This is the full, and they may do in renewals, they may do quickies in the renewals, but this the initial application will be a full FBI background check, to my understanding. And then you pay the fee. Well, we're going to talk about the fee in a few minutes. I know you guys probably have questions about how much is it going to cost. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's finish off the document real quick. These were the main points, by the way, for I think for individuals interested in applying as a multi-state licensee. So Article 5 is the authority of the commission and the autonomy of the member state. So it just describes in detail how each of them work together and their responsibilities, and how states can act under their scope of practice for people practicing in their state. And it's going to sound pretty repetitive later in some of these articles as well, but each article is very specific and different. Article 6, what happens when discipline needs to occur? It just outlines what the remote and home state as authorities can do amongst each other, independently of each other, and how the multi-state licensee is affected. I will say here that I believe it is in this section that if there is discipline on a multi-state licensee in a remote state, that the home state can also impose discipline on that licensee. I hear crickets. And Sandy's not showing me that that's wrong. Okay, good. We're moving on. Article 7 is very specific and short to the military consideration for this compact, and that is that they are accepted to be that resident of a single state forever that is not their home state.
They are, whatever state they get licensed in first, they can maintain that as their home state no matter where they move.
Yes.
And that was one thing you said earlier, where you said that it has to be your state of residence. Not necessarily.
Okay.
If you're in Nevada and you get into the compact in Nevada and then you move to Colorado and you still maintain your Nevada license, that may still be your home state license.
Okay.
The rules aren't
Definitely.
written yet, right?
That's true. Yes. So what I heard Matt say could, and if he put it in the frame of could, I apologize. I did not hear that. So thank you for the clarification. I thought the home state license was it too, because you have on our roll sheets on our applicants, we have people that live in California that hold a license here. So and then that's totally cool. That's
So
expected.
we could be their home state, even though they live in California, because California is not going to qualify them to be part of the compact.
Yeah, that was the
So
part that,
it could get a little complicated.
yeah, that might be a really good question for CSG at this point.
At this point, the way it's written, CSG's done.
Oh, okay. All right. Tricia.
CSG's done. The document is done. So moving forward, it'll be up to the commission once we have 7 states participating to write the rules that define anything that's a little bit ambiguous, perhaps, in the original document. And there are some things that are ambiguous for sure.
Yeah. Tricia, did you have a clarification?
I do. So if you're licensed at first licensed in California and then you move to another state and then get licensed there, but keep your state license in California, that because California is not a member, then that doesn't really count as being your home state.
California does not have state licensure. California only has certification. So they will never be a member of IMpact because it's not state licensure. And if they get state licensure as a whole, they are not compact friendly. So it's not likely that they would ever adopt language because they don't want to give up their rights. If you adopt compact language, your state legislature gives up certain regulatory rights to change language, right? We have to use the language of the compact as it relates to the multi-state license type. So some legislatures won't do that.
Okay. So if somebody coming from California moves to another state, gets licensed in that state, then that state that they moved to would be their home state, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate
it. You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
All right. Section 8 or Article 8 is establishing the commission. That's just how it's going to be established. Not really our concern at this point, unless you're going to be on the commission, and then that's a long road. Sandy, I cannot answer any of your questions about that article. I'm sorry.
That's okay. The commission will be formed as soon as there are 7 states, and it will be comprised of the executive director or top management position in each of the member jurisdictions. So in our particular case, it's our executive director for Nevada. But in other states, it might be a chief of an agency, like Colorado, it would be a chief. Utah, it would be a chief. It wouldn't be the executive director. So it just depends on the specific states. But it would be made up of all of the member states, and then it would have a committee that is defined in the document. And I'm not sure if Nevada will end up on that top level committee, but we're sure hoping to be part of the commission on the front end and help write those rules.
Yes.
Especially since, we got to be part of the development of the document to begin with.
Absolutely. That's why I'm bold-faced us on that other page, on the other slide. So the Article 9, it just describes the data system and its use, its purpose. It's very interesting reading. You can go read that through the document. I think it's in the link to the document is also in our meeting description, but we'll put it in the. Becky, would you mind putting that in the chat just for the record as well? Thank you. 10 is making rules, like who's going to do it, which is the commission, when, how, not specific rules, but how they're going to be made, who has the authority. Article 11 is regarding oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement of the compact itself. not of licensee activity. This is an article that usually these kind of articles come later because they're like the release of liability kind of language that you see in most contracts. These are very specific ways to resolve things between member states and the commission and states and etc. Article 12 is the effective date, withdrawal, and amendment to any member states or the compact itself. I believe once a member state is a member, they can, what am I trying to say here? They can suggest changes, but then this is a whole nother process. Like, for example, to the number of hours. Once they're a member, I don't think that's going to happen. It may. I mean, look at us. Nevada changed our number of required basic education hours to become a massage therapist since its inception. So we went from 500 to 550. It may change in the compact in the future because an amendment is made, and that's an approval of all. I think is it 100% approval of all the states to have the amendment, something change in the compact, Sandy?
Honestly, David, I don't remember that part, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. Well, this is just language that describes how that process can happen regarding the compact itself. 13 is construction and severability, terms of how to create and dissolve the compact. And then Article 14 is consistent effect in conflict with other state laws. Some more verbiage about how, and it's legal jargon, how this compact does not impose any expectations, responsibilities, etc., on the practice of massage therapy as is practiced by the member states. All right. Phew. Let's go into the implications for impact for us. We're at the top because that's how this is their graphic, by the way. I borrowed it to make things simpler, especially for going back and reviewing this. For our benefits as multi-state licensees, portability is I think the main reason that anybody would get this license. Yeah, it's cool to say you have one more license under your belt, right? To tell your clients, I'm being held accountable by yet another organization that has, professional expectations and now legal in this case, in the case of impact. But what if you actually want to have a summer home in, I don't know, Kentucky, and they're a member state, right? Then you go to Kentucky and you can work at the local Massage Envy under your multi-state license. How cool is that? If you have a need, like they're intending military spouses, that you have a career and now you have to move with your military member, it makes getting a job in Nevada a lot easier. It just makes portability of your practicing way easier, more variety. You can see the other ones: expands employment opportunity in the new markets. That's for the practitioner now. This is for the licensee. Continuity of care as well. You don't have to learn a new modality when you go to a new state in the market that you're going to, or for particular reasons. As long as you're practicing in the scope of the state that you're in, that would be the remote state if you're not in Nevada, then you're fine. Supports relocating military spouses and reduces financial burden. So we glanced over this earlier. If I want to practice in Kentucky without a multi-state license, I have to get their state license, and that's time consuming and will probably cost more. If I want to do it for several states, it's obviously going to cost more. So streamlining a multi-state license process is the idea of impact. Some benefits for regulators is, I like the allows regulators to retain jurisdiction over licensees practicing in their state. So let's say down south here, we have a big convention market, and somebody wants to come up from Phoenix, a practitioner, a multi-license, or yeah, a multi-state licensed practitioner, and we're both, Nevada and Arizona members of IMpact. They come up with their multi-state license. They work a gig, contracted, and then they go home. Totally under IMpact, this would be totally acceptable. For those of you that don't know, that practitioner would also have to get either a permit or a full independent massage therapist license to do that in this county. So if they were willing to get that business license as well, then they're totally within their right. Let's say they want to work at Massage Envy for a week. I don't think there's any business license they have to have. All you need is your professional license and a successful employment application, and you can be working in Nevada and then go back to Arizona. So that's, of course, assuming that both states are member states, and that I have the multi-state license to come to Nevada and be employed. It's possible. Nevada would expect that multi-state licensee to follow its rules and its scope, because two states may have a different scope, but also be members of the compact. We're going to get over to that detail in a minute. But public safety for regulators is a big issue. Human trafficking, it is nowhere mentioned in this compact, but it will allow regulators to track offenders. There was a few years ago, 5 or so years ago, Massage Envy got into some hot water with, let's say, somebody from Texas transferring to another state. Well, there was no way to track somebody who had complaints against them, and unfortunately, that therapist was actually had at least disciplinary, if not criminal, action taken against him or her. It was a him in this case. I remember the specific case. There was no way for Massage Envy to track that or our state board to track that. As a multi-state licensee, there is, and that's what we were talking about with the database system early, and Matilda that Sandy mentioned. We're able to see disciplinary actions, if there are any, before it even happens, and report it to all the other member states. And the benefits for states, it promotes workforce development, and I think that's kind of a huge thing for the current administration, is to lower red tape for creating jobs. I think that's really a good politician, any good politician's idea of successful politics, is to make sure that everybody has a job. Whatever we can do to do that, I think this IMpact will help that, and they listed it as a benefit in their document, as it helps workforce development. We're going to also address a FAQ about jobs in Nevada and availability and what IMpact might mean for jobs in Nevada. But this is overall the benefits for each category of the participants in what will be IMpact. What is IMpact and what will be legislated. All right, a quick review for everybody. Am I going a long time? I sure am. Wow. If you can't stay past the hour, please review the recording afterwards. This is a quick, very quick idea about, remember that show, I'm a Bill, I'm only a Bill, that you used to see every Saturday morning on the cartoons? This is sort of the same thing. This is generalized. The NSBMT, I'm just going to plug in some real information in this example. The NSBMT is moving forward language to a BDR, and possibly, Sandy will update us later, possibly finding a sponsor for this BDR to ask our legislator, who's in session now since February 6th until about the end of May or beginning of June, don't know yet, if they would allow IMpact to become part of what our state board is able to participate in. So it has to go into law. The BDR is a draft of what could finally be voted on in the House by majority and Senate by majority, and the governor signs off as law, as being something that we can participate in. We're in the early stages right now. we're in stage 1 actually in Nevada still. So until we find it officially a sponsor, we're not going to hit stage 2 yet. We have a few more months, and I know Sandy's going to want to talk about that in a minute and update us, but let me finish this little presentation. Thank you, Sandy. Why is the Nevada chapter involved? So we want to take a little action on behalf of our members. Thank you all for coming today, and represent their voices, whatever those voices are, all of their voices. We're going to write a letter, which will be vetted by our National Government Relations Office. We have a national office, and it will reflect the fact that we are aware of what the NSBMT is doing, and that we're watching it, and that our members have an opinion in what it is. That's basically all we want to do. We want to make sure our board members know that what the kind of the temperature is out here for licensees. We're going to be asking you to take a survey as all members. We have over 1,100 now, by the way, to take a survey that has some educational material at the front end, including the video of this that people can watch or read the CSG document, that will help them answer the questions. Do you support, oppose, or can't answer the question? Do you support impact in Nevada? That's basically the question. When we get answers either way, all ways to that question, that's what we're going to present to our state board in a public comment in a letter. So that's why we're involved. We want to get our members' voices heard, because there's nothing worse than letting legislation happen and then me as a practitioner coming back and going, what just happened? I don't agree with that, or I agree with that, or it failed and I could have helped, or it went through and I didn't really have that opinion. This is the place to do that now. We're kind of in a position as a association as well, to see impact come to life across all of our chapters, not just the Nevada chapter. So the Nevada chapter, thank you, with the help of Becky and our chapter board, they wanted to put this forward to everybody and make sure we got all of our members recorded through a survey in their opinion. How would it benefit NVMTs? Impact. Well, we talked a lot about that already. We can talk about that more in just a few minutes on the backside, if you have, during the discussion, how it might benefit you, how you see it working. We're going to ask you that question too, but not as the required question. The only required question is, do you support, oppose, or can't answer the question at this time in the survey? That's the only one we ask it for. That's the information we're going to present the board. Comments will be included anonymously in the survey. At the end, there will be a comment space, so you can include the comments. The board, I think, likes to see this stuff. They want to see what the practitioners, their licensees, think about things that they're doing. So any feedback is accepted and passed on. As a note on this third question, the purpose of the meeting, Georgia, Nebraska, and Washington have BDRs. They're in level 2 right now in their legislature. On this particular slide right here, they're at 2. They have a sponsor. They have a BDR that is being heard now. That was reported by Massage Magazine. I'm very happy to see 3 out of 7 required states to initiate the compact are already in the process. Whether they get approved or not, totally up in the air right now, right? So we're rooting for them. Some FAQs you might have thought of during this presentation. What does it cost? Nobody knows yet. And I was wary of putting in this bullet 1 numbers because, and I'm going to put a caveat with this for the record, that I have heard these numbers. These were not announced. These were not put in writing anywhere. These are what I heard in discussions and from people that I think have been around for a long time and kind of hear these things. Other state compacts cost more on an annual basis for their licensees. sometimes simply because the states that are managing the compacts, there's costs involved for so many states. 15 to 40 states are involved in some of these compacts. So it depends how much it's going to cost, is all I can say at this point. Member state costs, again, we don't know until the rules are written, what the member state costs are. If you're wondering where my licensee fees are going, this might be a good question to ask later, or find out when the rules are made. And that's all we know right now. We can't really say. So that is the bottom line on that one. FAQ number 2, do I have to have an impact license? No, this is totally optional. If you have considerations that may not qualify you yet for an application when the rules come out and the application itself comes out as to what is required, there's opportunities here. Compact is designed to overcome obstacles. Okay, so I might have to take the MBLEX to get a multi-state license. I'm totally cool with that because I haven't had to take an exam in 20 years. So I'm going to have to put some work into this too. I've been practicing for 22 years now, so I'm not exempt from the opportunity, the option of having this license. I'm not exempt from the requirements, even though over 1,000, thousands maybe of CE hours documented. We may have all this, but there may be one thing that we need to do yet to get this particular license. And I think it'd be worth it if I am going to be practicing in it even more than one state, up to seven. Wow. All right. Qualified applicants. I think I mentioned that before. Impact licensed, and I threw that in there. Multi-state licensed practitioners would need to follow the statutes and laws in the member state in which they practice while using their license. It's like a driver's license. If you can't make a right on red in California, whether you have a Nevada license and you do it and you didn't know, or you have a California license and you didn't know, you're still going to get the ticket. It doesn't matter what state your driver's license is from, you're going to get a ticket if it's against the law. So if Nevada says you can't do this and you're an Arizona practitioner and they're both member states and you're a licensee, if you do something outside of the scope of Nevada, then they're going to ding you if you're cited. Like carrying your license on you, I think would be a really good example. Arizona may not require it, but Nevada does, so you got to have it on you. And maybe the rule will be written that you got to keep your multi-state license on you at all times, just to cover everybody's bases. Last FAQ, will impact licensees take away jobs? This is an FAQ because I think it's a really important concern. I don't think you can answer that question like definitively. You can't say that somebody took my job because they have a multi-state license, and without it, I would have gotten the job. I don't think you can say that. So I'm going to say no in the general sense. But specifically, there's no way to prove that that will ever happen. Again, the CSG developing this has a history of taking down barriers and improving workforce opportunities for everybody. So it will just grow, and I think that's my opinion. But the statistic here is that our profession, our occupational profession, is going to grow from 20 in the next 10 years, 20%. So I don't think anybody's going to be worried about losing a job to somebody from Kentucky, for example, or Arizona. Let's see here. Hey, we're in the second half. Does anybody, Becky, were there any questions that popped up that?
I did not see any, no.
Okay, well, everybody was like, I'm sure glued to their seat. Let's open up the Q&A. Are there any, I know, Tricia, you probably have a question, but are there any questions that this presentation didn't cover for you that serve your interests in why you're here at the meeting? Kimberly, you turned on.
I'm right here, guys. I'll answer anything I can.
Yeah. Trish,
Okay.
oh, do we have to unmute you?
No, you're fine. I do have a question about massage therapy students. Are they allowed to also participate in this survey
David, that's
that
you,
you
not
were
me.
just?
So
That's
based
sorry.
on,
That's a David question. Is
thank you, Sandy. I think based on the definition of 625 clock hours, that you'd have to be a licensee
okay.
of the state. So students are not licensees.
Right.
They can act and perform massage therapy under certain conditions in Nevada. I don't know about other states, but I don't think any state would consider them like, as a licensee of the state. So I would say students are not qualified to apply.
Okay.
Doesn't even matter the number of hours they've already completed in a school program. I think the license would definitely trump any. Having a state professional license already trumps the student status or the clock hours.
Okay.
Trisha, did you mean the survey that AMTA is sending out if students can participate?
No, the chat. Sorry.
I think that's the one I was asking about. Is that different than what? Would they be able to participate in that one?
Oh, the survey that the chapter is sending out. We're sending out to current members, and we do have student members. So they will be receiving this. So we're representing as a chapter of members, not as licensees so we have retired, members as well that are not practicing currently. So if you're not practicing currently or yet, you'll still be asked as a member.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, Becky.
Amanda, I think was your hand up next.
Yeah, my question is on school transcripts. You were one of my teachers at Nevada School of Massage Therapy, which is unfortunately closed now. I know when I applied to work in California, the school had to send my transcripts in, and since that's not an option anymore, my question is, how would that work? I still have my original ones.
Transcripts can be provided by the Commission on Post-Secondary Education for individuals that had Nevada education. They retain all of those transcripts. There's other state agencies in different states that would retain the transcripts. There are some cases in California where we can't get a hold of transcripts. So that makes it more complicated. Then we require approval of a program by the CAMTC. And if they've approved the program, then our board would take the education. And if our board has taken the education, then it would move up the ladder to the commission for review. Many states, I think we have 22 states that are still at 500 hours. So a lot of the folks are going to have to use continuing education. I went to school when it was 200 hours. So I still qualify. And that was part of what we were after. What about all of the folks that were grandfathered in that had less education than is required now? We still wanted them to be able to have a compact license if they've maintained their continuing education and they can show that they've had 625 hours of education. That's why we didn't do a program of 625 hours or more in the document, because we want to allow folks to have portfolio review by the commission.
Yep. Take down the obstacles to employment, or practice. Yep. Thank you, Amanda. And by the way, I can confirm the CPE, the Commission on Post-Secondary Education. It's a state office. Cortiva, who bought the school, also has on their website for schools that they closed, former campuses like Las Vegas campus. They also have the contact information for the CPE office where you can get their particular transcripts. So visit Cortiva website and they'll have the closed campus list, and then they'll have the contact information, maybe even a person there. So if you ever need it, especially for this particular application when it gets written and distributed, if you're applying for a multi-state license, you'll again need to provide that information. This is good question. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Kimberly Burnley. You had your hand up next, I think.
Yes, so I think I just need a little bit more clarification about the home state and what is the other definition?
Remote state?
What is your home state and then the one that the impact partner member state, I think it's called.
Well, the member state is really a regulatory reference.
Okay.
So for us, though, it would be the remote state, the one I want to practice in that is also a member state of the compact.
So the remote.
So when, mhm.
Oh, so my question is, so say Nevada, we get approved and we're doing it, and Arizona also is part of the remote state. I live in Nevada, my license is in Nevada, but I move eventually to Arizona, and I don't live in Nevada anymore, but my license is in Nevada. Do I have to, because they're in the impact, do I eventually have to go get my license in Nevada, even if I change residency? I don't know if I'm making this complicated.
No,
And that's okay.
Yeah.
The way we originally structured it, you could retain your home state license in Nevada, reside in Arizona, and have a compact license that you use for Arizona. If you chose, you could change your home state. And some states require that. Some states don't allow you to maintain the home state residency without changing it to the state where you're living in. Other states don't have requirements like that. Just like Nevada with a driver's license. If you're going to live here more than so long, you got to get a Nevada driver's license. But we have a compact with all the other states to say that you can drive in their state with a Nevada driver's license. This will be kind of similar to that.
Okay.
And then you can kind of make choices. I anticipate that we're going to have a loss in revenue in Nevada, and that's going to be based on the people that will go for a home state that has less licensure costs than perhaps we do. I think we'll see some loss of revenue there, but over time, they're not going to be able to maintain that if they aren't following the rules and regulations of that home state either. So, and some states won't even give you a license if you don't reside in their state. So there's all kinds of variables depending on states and what that's going to look like. And again, we got more rules to write. This is the beginning document. We'll see more rules come out of the commission as the commission develops. My goal is to be sitting on that commission with part of the first 7, because I think that's going to be where Nevada is going to have the most impact beyond what we had during the TAG process, where we were the technical assistance group that helped the lawyers figure out what to write and what we needed and had discussions. And, hopefully we'll see a really good set of rules come out of the commission as it develops.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody is aware, particularly. I think I put Sandy's credential in the in that beginning slide, but she's a licensed massage therapist, and she's I want to say on last report from Sandy, she's the only licensed massage therapist, LMT, that is a regulator as well. Because she's in the administrative position with the board, there's no other, she doesn't have an equal out there. They're all administrative professionals, right? Like that's what they do. Sandy also, and has 22 plus years of experience? 28 being an LMT. So I think what she brings to these tables of regulatory bodies is invaluable for our profession. And that's kind of why I'm excited that she's involved. It's in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I'm the vice president now of the federation.
And
Nevada has a voice.
You started as delegate?
I was a delegate in 2016.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember. I think I was a delegate in 17 as well. And then we had Deirdre take over as delegate. And I ran for a position on the board, was elected, was the treasurer for 2 years, and now I'm VP.
That's awesome.
So we have a voice.
National
table, Nevada has a voice. And I want to see Nevada have a voice on that commission in the first 7, because that way we have the most impact on what those rules are, right? I don't want to see somebody come in and say, oh, it's got to be a program of 625 hours. We want to keep it flexible so that we have portability for even folks that were grandfathered in.
An example of how I also believe that Nevada is on the cutting edge, or the forefront, I should say the forefront, because usually boards, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, Sandy, boards they're not as innovative as you might think. A lot of times they're looking for, and I hear this in meetings all the time, is there another state that already has that written? Can we like model after them? Or, if it's a proven something, a regulation, for example, that they want to add or change, has it been proven already? And that's how regulatory bodies typically operate. I mean, cities do, counties do, same thing. I see it here in Valley. Henderson starts something and then everybody else adopts it, right? So I'm thinking about our state board when I hear across across people, across our profession, talk about, well, we want to certify massage establishments. And I'm thinking to myself, we've already done that. We've had that in place for 3 or 5 years, something like that. I mean, Nevada does a lot of innovative things, I think. And this board was only convened in 2005, and we're a young board compared to some other boards, but I think Nevada is doing some things that other states are kind of like looking at and going, hey, we could implement that here. And we're that state that has done it already or has a history of it. What discipline comes out of making this regulation? Is it feasible? Is it economically feasible? Is it, they consider all these things. And I think Nevada is one of those states that does cool things, and we're looked at sometimes. And I don't, do you feel like that, Sandy, when you're talking to other state boards? Okay.
When COVID happened, one of our board members, Deirdre Strunk, she served in a national capacity to write the recommendations that the Federation put out for all massage therapists nationwide. And, she came from the Nevada board. She's phenomenal. She sat on the tag with me as well when we were working on this document for the impact. We have our chair, Elizabeth Bernard. She serves on several committees for the Federation. Bianca Smith, she serves on educational committees for the Federation. Nevada has been part of, on a national level, making sure that things progress in our industry. And next week, I'll be in Kansas City. We're working on model language that we can share with every state that's a member board regarding establishments and ways to approach that. I've already told them our certificate thing is not the way to do it. What we did was designed to address all of the dirty uniforms that our strip properties were putting our licensees in. We wanted more teeth with the establishments so that we could go after the establishment owners when they didn't take care of our licensees, instead of citing our licensees for having a dirty uniform. Yeah. So that's why we did the certification of the establishments. But real establishment licensure is where we're progressing nationwide. And that model practice language is going to happen next week. We're going to start writing it as a group. We have multiple representatives from all over the country that are coming together in Kansas City to start working on that. And the attorney for the Georgia board is the chair of that committee. I'm the board liaison. So we're going to see some good stuff happen next week that hopefully maybe Nevada can even shift and not be a certificate anymore. Maybe we can be an establishment. But our goal when we did the certificate was not to add more cost burden to any of the establishments that already existed. We were after getting some teeth to ensure that our therapists were in solid places, that hygiene was maintained, that sheets were being washed, that we didn't have sanitation issues that the therapist had no control over being an issue for the therapist. And that's what the certificate's done. It's given a citation ability over the establishment instead of over just the licensee.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction, I think, especially when it comes to licensee confidence. If it is indeed establishment function, then establishments need to be held accountable and want to be held accountable. I mean, that's the real bottom line there. I think I know I'm a licensee because I know that I will be held accountable at some point. Somebody's going to audit my jacket. They're going to say, and the state board does that automatically. Like I always know how many CEs I have in my bank every year because they're keeping up with my requirements. So to be able to say that to a client and to put that number on, that searchable, by the way, number on my business card and everywhere that I have my title with my name, I mean, that builds a confidence in my clients as well. So I don't mean to toot, licensure's horn, but I think it works for at least that reason.
Well, and the inception of our board saved licensees money in Southern Nevada. The inspection from Southern Nevada Health was $300 a year. And when the board was first conceived of, we made the licensing fee $150. So it was a 50% cut in what the licensees were having to pay just to operate their businesses. So yeah, we've done a lot of good. And yes, David, you will be inspected and held accountable. And that lovely smiling face at the center of my screen is going to do your out-call inspection.
Oh, she did. I was in her first round this year.
Okay.
So I'm done this year. If any of you ever have the pleasure of working with Becky, she's amazing. She's efficient. She is communicative. You will not have a question after you're done with her. She'll listen to them all and answer them all. Yeah. All right. Now, let's see. Kim, did somebody have their hand raised?
I don't see any hands raised.
I had my hand raised, but I withdrew.
Okay.
It was just a comment I wanted to make based off of Amanda's comment. You said you went to school in California. Oh, it wasn't in California. Okay, never mind. Yeah. I had a similar situation as you.
It was a school in Las Vegas. So I've been Nevada-based.
Okay, gotcha.
I did work in California for about 3 years, and I was horrified at how everything is run there.
Yeah, from what I understand, well, I'm from California originally, and I'm still licensed in certified in California. But when I was a student, I got grandfathered into CAMTC right before that went into law, or not law, but that you had to be certified in order to be considered state certified under CAMTC. But they're a nonprofit organization that cannot enforce law, and that's one of the problems that they're having in California, that they just can't make a license with a nonprofit running the whole program. So I had to go back to school to work in Nevada and redo my whole credentialing education because I called CAMTC to find out why they certified me. And it was just because I took anatomy and physiology college education at Napa Valley College. That's it. My school went out of commission after everything switched over. I have no transcripts. They're laughable everywhere else. So,
that is awesome that you went to school to get your
so,
I mean, it's commendable.
Yeah, so I hope you can find your transcripts, Amanda. So, yeah, good luck.
And Amanda, when you call the Commission on Post-Secondary Education, ask for Mary Chris. Just ask for her. She'll take care of you.
All right. Who else has a question? Anybody else? We're really talking about impact here, the future of our profession, specifically in Nevada. How do you guys feel about this legislation? I mean, again, we're not even on the board yet, meaning on the game board of getting this through. Is that correct, Sandy? We don't have a sponsor. Okay.
The board did decide at an official board meeting that they would hire a lobbyist, and that lobbyist has reached out to senators and assembly people. And I'm told that we have a senator that's going to sponsor a bill or a BDR, and that we have an assembly person that is going to co-sponsor. So we should have a bipartisan dual house bill when we're done. But until I see a BDR actually up on the legislative website, I'm skeptic. And that's just me, right? That's just my nature. I know we hired somebody. I know he says that we have things moving along, but I haven't seen them yet. Legal counsel advised me that we will probably see the BDR drop sometime in the month of March. So keep your eyes open. If you would like updates on what's going on in the legislative session, send me an email. My email address is on the board website, and I will add you to the distribution for all of the legislative updates that I send out, as well as distribution for our agendas for the board meetings.
So when Sandy says keep her eyes open, I just put the link to the BDR list for Nevada. And all you have to do is put the keyword in there.
Massage.
Massage. And I just searched it, and the result is there were no records that met your search criteria. Sandy's saying when you get a hit, that means it's in.
And until then, it's not.
So you can keep your eyes open there at that link. And then, Becky, thank you. Put in Sandy's email address.
Oh, thank you, Becky.
And thank you for being open, Sandy, because you're super busy and you always make yourself available. I'm so happy for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it is now 9:23. And let me cover a couple more slides here, and then we will close up the meeting.
Where are you, David, that it's 9:23?
Did I say 9? I meant 7:23. I was just trying to make the day longer. That's all. I'm in Hawaii. No.
Colorado, maybe?
Yeah, Colorado. So what's next? Tonight, as soon as this video is done processing through Google servers, and I can put a bookends on it, we're going to post it and make it available for our members to see, and basically the public. We're going to host it on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again later if you didn't catch something. If you need to dig it, I think we're going to have captions, so you'll be able to see or read or hear the presentation. We're going to send this out tonight before midnight, by the way, because for 7 days we're going to ask you to take the member survey. Thank you for your thoughtful answers. If you have comments that you couldn't make here or didn't have in your brain stack until you actually took the survey, there's a place for you to enter those there. Those will be passed on anonymously. Your answers will be aggregate on the multiple choice. So we're going to represent our members. That's what our intention is. On the 22nd, which is the next regular board NSBMT meeting, we're going to have our letter from the chapter and our National Government Relations Office approved and ready for submission for the record. We definitely hope to see some really good, positive, supportive numbers in our survey, but we're going to report what happens. We want the board, primarily the board, to know, the state board, the NSBMT, to know what our members are thinking about this. We also want our national organization to understand, because James Specker, who is our liaison with the national board, he's the one that runs the National GR office. He's like, yeah, that would be really good information, because we just don't have any data on what chapter members in any particular chapter are thinking. I'm like, well, we might be able to provide that for you in a survey. So I want to thank everybody for coming today, tonight, and asking really good questions, listening, hearing us talk about not only impact, but the future of our profession. And you guys are on the cutting edge. Thank you so much. Take the survey when you can in the next 7 days, starting tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you and serving you as our members. So thank you, everybody.